joining today's webinar on Business Central Health Check, presented by Ben Cole of ERP Connect Consulting and Nirav Shah of AdSears ERP. Few logistics today before we get started. Housekeeping rules. Everyone has been muted upon entering, and please use the Q&A section of the Teams menu to submit throughout this presentation. We will address these questions at the end of the session. This session is being recorded and will be shared with you in the next 24 to 48 hours and will be also available on the YouTube channels. Today's presenter is Ben Cole of ERP Connect Consulting and the Business Central Toolbox, a company he started in 2021 with the goal of streamlining day-to-day operations in BC through a variety of automation tools. Prior to starting the company, Ben worked in public accounting and consulting with a focus on Dynamics 365 solutions, design, implementation, and support, and currently brings 10 years of Dynamics 365 expertise. Ben is passionate about automation and integration and leverages his expertise to improve Business 365 user experience. Next presenter is Nirav Shah. He's the president of AdSears ERP, who also has 20 plus years of ERP implementations, project management, and business process. He has the privilege of helping businesses streamline operations and modernize systems with platforms like Microsoft 365 and Acumatica. He is also the co-host podcast of ABCs of ERP and Beyond, sharing real world ERP stories and practical insights, navigating through the digital transformation journey. And with that being said, I will let Nirav and Ben take over.
Well, great. Thank you, Ivani. Appreciate it. Happy to be here with everybody today. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us on this great presentation we have for you this morning or early afternoon, depending on where you are in a part of the country right now, where we have Ben Cole with us. He is the founder of ERP Connect, make some amazing apps on AppSource for Business Central. Real quick, any apps that we talk about, they're available for download on AppSource for customers to download pretty easily. Now, today, we're going to be talking about and focusing on his specific product called the Health Check for Business Central. And this one is an interesting one for us, particularly being partners and implementing Dynamics Business Central with customers in all different industries, because we find that often after the implementation, there are things that don't match, or something has happened in the business process flow where the reconciliation gets off. Maybe there's been some turnover in the client side, and they can't go ahead and figure out the steps that somebody else did in the past, or neglected to do something or a certain process, where now the system slowly starts to become unreconcilable, right? And Ben has developed this amazing tool that goes out and monitors when things like this happen through your Business Central environment, through day-to-day transactions, people doing various things in the system, and brings that up, right? Brings that up to the surface and gets somebody to pay attention to these things so they don't become bigger problems down the road, right? And this is very common, what I would say, post implementation. And I think, for anyone that's joined here today, depending on how long you've been live for, right, you will at one point or another encounter this, right? It happens for various reasons, like a few that I just explained. Adding to those reasons are different gaps. Like, you created a new product line, and then you created a new inventory posting group code, but it didn't get mapped over to the inventory accounts correctly. And now your inventory reconciliation is off, right? And that gets off for some period of time until you realize it. And then you have this full reconciliation that you have to do inside Business Central with your accounting team and your inventory team to bring that together. You then also get, situations where people are in the office for extended times, and things don't get reconciled. You need maybe job queues or different automations that need to run. So today it's going to be we're going to be discussing Ben Cole's solution on BC Health Check, and we'll start with talking about challenges. And I talked about a few just earlier right now. Ben will also come into the conversation, talk about challenges. We'll talk about strategies for success, right? How you could do this inside Business Central manually potentially, but we want to prevent that from happening. And then what type of tools does Ben have to set customers up for success? So as their system, as you're transacting day to day and you have all this transactional data, if there's issues that come up or there's reconciliation gaps and stuff like that, that Ben's tool is going to be able to help you, be ahead of that instead of later. So you could finish your month ends on time, finish your year ends on time, release your financials correctly. And we'll see a full demo of that as well as we go through our presentation today. And then we'll leave some questions, like I said, for Q&A. And we'll have a few remarks to closing and how to kind of get in contact with Ben and where you could find some of his solutions. So Ben, let's start with, right, some of the challenges that we commonly see with Business Central that prompts them to use a solution that you've created to meet this gap in ensuring PC health, right, success.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for having me today. I like to think of kind of what you've talked about so far as an insurance policy, right? At first and foremost, right? So hoping that you don't really need to use it ever, but you're able to monitor things, and whether that be going in for your annual physical or whatever, just getting a health check with your doctor. This is kind of a similar thought process, right? You may have a few things that you need to fix right out the gate, and when you download a tool like Health Check, you're able to see those things, but then have it turn after you fix those to be more proactive versus reactive, right? And when I look at some of the pitfalls or some of the common things that I see with most of the new clients that are downloading something like the Health Check is they've got a good idea of what they should be doing, but they have no idea how to see if they've done it right without going to like 30 different screens inside of Business Central, right? Can you do all of this stuff without our health check tool? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But the tool that we're going to show, we're going to talk about, is absolutely free. So there's no reason in spending, 6 or 7 hours to go do that when you could literally run it in 5 minutes, just by downloading the application. And outside of just the health check, everything that we've built is all purpose driven, right? We're not just building a spec home and hoping that somebody buys it, right? Every single thing that we've come across or we've developed comes from a specific client use case, either from our past lives or something that we're working on currently that a need has been identified for. So we actually came across the health check in Q4 of last year, just because there had been a huge demand and people hadn't really known how to get all this information consolidated into one place. And if enough people were asking, we've likely now got a product around it. So that kind of frames up what we've been doing. But to get into some of the nuance behind some of the biggest pitfalls that we see, right? It's things you wouldn't think of, but are so common, right? Like subledger to general ledger balances. That typically for most accountants is a no-brainer, right? Your AR should tie from what your AR account and your chart of accounts and your general ledger says to what all of your customer balances are, right? Like that just seems like something no one's monitoring, because you're like, yeah, of course our customers owe us the amount of money that our chart of accounts says, right? You can extrapolate that to things like accounts payable, your inventory, your bank account balances, all these things which should be running through a subledger, but you'd be surprised by how many times they're not, right? And we've not only put in tools to monitor these things, but also to make recommendations to help prevent these things moving forward. And we'll show this with like direct posting, right? You shouldn't have direct posting on for cash accounts that are tied to bank accounts.
Yep.
That will protect you against some of the things that we're going to see later today. You alluded to setup issues, right? A lot of times, let's say you have a January 1st, 2025 go live, right? The most popular date for a go live, which it isn't my opinion. That just seems to be end users' favorite date, right after the holidays when everybody's out on vacation and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah.
whoever you're working with, sets you up perfectly. You've got all these posting groups. They're all great. They're all good to go. But then you get a new customer or a new vendor and you add a new general business posting group, right? And now all of a sudden that matrix no longer has the correct matrix of GL accounts for things like your sales and your purchase and your cost of goods, right? While that may not be an issue as you create the customer, as soon as you go try to sell something to that customer, the users are going to get flooded with error messages, right? And then what's the first thing everybody does when they get error messages? They throw their hands up and start submitting tickets, and it just creates this downstream effect where now you're going into a fire drill to fix these when really they're not huge issues. It's just because some GL accounts were missed. But in that fire drill instance, people tend to just plug accounts, and now guess what? You're back to the original issue of things not posting to, maybe the correct subledgers or the right accounts. And as you can imagine, this hornet's nest of mess can really compound over time. Whereas if you just took 30 minutes or an hour or submitted that support ticket and paid, 100, $200 to get it solved, we have, the horror stories to back it up of clients who let it go for 2 or 3 years and spent 20, 30, $40,000 just for an accounting exercise to get things cleaned up, right? And depending on the size of your organization, that can obviously, the magnitude of that can multiply over time. And the bigger you are, now you get CPAs and auditors involved and stuff like that. And now you just got 3 or 4 people billing you to fix it, right? So we're really trying to, if you take anything away from today, is be proactive rather than reactive, right? And give you the tools to avoid those pitfalls moving forward. Not to say you're never going to submit a support ticket. I'd be lying to you if I said that, right? But reducing your costs so that every once in a while you can, go into the clinic and get some care and maybe spend a couple $100, right? Rather than be in the hospital because you ignored your issues for years, and now you have, life altering surgery that's costing tens of thousands of dollars, right? That's kind of the big comparison here that I like to make, for the health check. So I know that's a lot to put on everyone's plate as we get started, but I'm sure you've got other places you want to go as well here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of keeping this conversational, Ben, I always usually find being a partner on this side where we're implementing Business Central solutions to our end customers is, we have the proper setup coming out of the gate. We're able to, tie and reconcile the general ledger to the sub ledger. And what we tend to see is the only time a customer or client starts seeing differences in the GL and the subledger or anything like that is right at month end. And I feel like sometimes that's too long of a gap, right? And if you keep only waiting for month end to solve these problems, you're not solving them retroactively, right? If you solve it, it's going to be prospectively, and it's going to be what changes you make moving forward. So all that setup that's gone away that current month, all those transactions, right, got potentially booked incorrectly. So how do staying ahead of it, as you mentioned, right, with a solution of like a health check keeps you more current, right? You don't go in this, a lot of customers, let's face it, they don't even do month ends, so depending how small they are, maybe they have an accountant that comes in like maybe once a quarter, and they come into their ERP system, Business Central, and they start looking at things and say, hey, your inventory, you're showing, a 1.2 million on your books, but you're only, when you run your inventory valuation, it's only $600,000. Well, okay, something's happened here, right? And now it's like reconstructing a car accident, right? I know we've been talking about being in the doctor's office, but it's like a car accident's happened now. And now you have to kind of become the forensic here and start dissecting what happened. At what point did somebody, introduce a new posting group code that was incorrect, or they assigned it, did maybe a mass upload of some data that was not correct, right? Or somebody went into the general posting setup table when they shouldn't have, or somebody went into the chart of account and flagged direct posting allowed, right? Things like that, where if you wait too long to do this, because what happens, right? We know this, right? We implement ERP software and we talk to customers all day long, is that once you can't get good data out of the system, you start losing users. And yeah, that's a hard thing to say, but if the system is not auditable and people can't rely on it, the users can't rely on it, the finance team is frustrated using it, it starts to become a system that deteriorates more or less, right? Because people are not going in to put in the transactions, or they're taking whatever's there and just moving on, or accepting the error, not even bother correcting it. So, that's where, when we come in and, we get support tickets all the time, we see a lot of frustration from an end user perspective. And Ben, why don't you talk a little bit about some common error messages that your solution solves successfully when they run this in the background?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the exact kind of purpose, like you mentioned, right? So I'm not sure if I sent it to you in the slides, but I've got some actual error messages. If you go
Yeah,
forward, if the PowerPoint's
yeah,
still being shared, there's like
yeah,
four
yeah.
of the
You
most
do have
common
some.
ones, and I want to make sure that I read them correctly
Yeah.
so that I don't say it incorrectly. But and I think there's the raise hand function like I've got here. If anybody's seen these before, feel free to do that or react or something, right? So like
Yeah.
posting date isn't within your range of allowed posting dates, right? This is one of the most common, like June 1st, right, or June 2nd, like got at least two or three of these tickets. Like, hey, I'm getting errors. It's like, okay, well, you probably didn't update your general ledger setup or your your
Yeah.
your user setup, right? You can just kind of flip through these. The next one
Yeah.
um, should be accounts missing from general posting setup. So we already talked about this, right? Your sales accounts missing, your purchase accounts missing, your cost of goods accounts missing, right? These are all things that at one point in time you likely set up, and they're all going off of your point, right? I feel like as you do start to lose users, the other piece is if users see other people doing it wrong and it's taking them too long and they don't know what to do, they just go, well, screw it. Somebody else did it wrong. I'm just going to plug this and
Exactly.
move to the
Exactly.
right. It's like, well, that's a horrible process. That's actually probably the worst thing you can do, is
Mm-hmm.
just click post and say, not my problem, right? Because it's going to be
Yeah.
someone else's problem, and the
Right.
someone else's problem it's probably going to be a lot more expensive than what you just did to post that, right? So here's another one: an insufficient quantity of item, 1013 or whatever it is in your inventory. A lot of times we see people trying to sell things to their customers and they have no inventory for it, right? So it's on a sales order. Everyone's used to 2 day shipping from Amazon now, and all of a sudden, not only can you not ship it, but we don't even have it. So we're not going to get it from our vendor for a couple days, right? And this is twofold here, right? Fulfillment as well as just the concept of negative inventory, which you can toggle that off in Business Central and
Yeah.
things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then there should be one more here related to currencies, which kind of tabs
Yep.
into both currencies and job queues, right? So if you are, working cross border, even if it's just US with Canada or something like that, you are going to have some sort of FX rate and some sort of exchange rate risk here. So by making sure that currencies are being regularly updated, there's job queues you can do to make sure that are running and make sure that these things are occurring, right? In this example, I think the font's a little small, but it looks like it's 2024 for
Mm-hmm.
our currency exchange rate, right? Obviously, a lot's changed over the last year. And if you're operating off an old Canadian dollar to US dollar exchange rate, when you actually go to pay the bill or they pay you, this could cause, drastic differences versus what the original sales order or purchase order was booked to. So
Absolutely.
kind of, you know, you say how often, like even some people aren't doing month end, right? That is something that I obviously can't control, but I
Right.
recommend at least looking at it monthly, right? Looking at the health
Mm-hmm.
check monthly as part of your month end close, making sure things are good to go. But obviously, the more you look at it, the less likely you are to have something catastrophic happening. Obviously, if you look at every 6 months, now you're looking 5 months back. It's like I don't remember the journal entries I made 5 months. I,
Right.
I probably don't even
Right.
remember the ones I made 3 or 4 weeks ago. So doing it, weekly, it takes 5 minutes, like literally 5 minutes. So at the end of the day on Friday or the beginning of the day on Monday, just to have it be something you do while you drink a cup of coffee or something makes it, just a habit, right? Because there's all these
Yeah.
accounting things you're doing weekly anyways. Why not make this one of them? And again,
Mm-hmm.
it's an insurance policy, right? To make sure that
Yeah.
nothing bad is happening. And if
Mm-hmm.
something does happen, you can fix it real quick and then go to the rest of the team to buy back that trust that you just talked about, right? Hey guys, here's an area I see for improvement. Here's why it's important. You know, let's make it happen. And then, you know, get a pizza party or something. I don't know, make everybody
Yeah.
happy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are kind of the big gotchas, right? And that's obviously only four. I've got like 30 things in the health check,
Right.
but those are
Yeah.
the ones I would say
Yeah.
resonate most with people, because
Yeah.
those are the ones, just from a statistics standpoint, those are the ones we get the most support tickets on. So that's kind of how we've come up with those.
Yeah, for sure. And these are really great examples because we see this day in and day out, right? We see insufficient inventory. We see, posting dates are, not, within range for that user, especially during the month end side. So it keeps the whole system operational, and no one is stopping, kind of right there while they're doing the transaction and putting their hands up in the air like, oh, what do we do now? So, I always say in ERP implementations, it's always great to be proactive than reactive. So having this tool kind of continuously run and helping with the suggestions, right? And you have 30 different things here, Ben, that you do check, right? And you may not have every single one of these items activated potentially. Let's say you don't use multi-currency, right? You don't have to worry about it. System won't give you an error message. But down the road, if you do decide to use multi-currency, you'll know that there is a tool, a free tool, by the way, in your BC instance that's constantly looking to make sure you have the right currency code within the posting dates, whatever that looks like, so you could post that transaction successfully, right? And get those, translation, gains or loss, and things like that. So, Ben, give us a little bit of information on, this tool, and if you have some examples of how it's helped some of your customers, implementing it right away, how quickly they're able to, clean up a mess that they maybe probably going on for months at a time, and how many people does it take to run this tool? If you could give us some background.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I'm happy to share my screen and show you some of these things as well. But the download is as quick as you can get it on app stores, right? So that could be in the next 5 minutes, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
download it, have it in your system, and the setup is essentially next to nothing. You could have it set up in under, you know, 90 seconds, really. There's just a few options that you have to select, but we're going to pre-populate them with kind of some standard setups, right? We've got a customer payer indicator, right? So one of the questions is, how many payments do you want to analyze? Obviously, if you're higher volume, you probably want more payments. If you're lower volume, you might want less. And this is kind of trying to get us to a day sales outstanding per customer, right? And we'll show you that. I'm happy to share my screen and look at that kind of stuff. And it can take as few as one person to take a look at this, right? Obviously, if more people want access, you could have 100 users looking at it if you really wanted to. And then in terms of identifying things and cleaning them up, right? That's probably the hardest one to answer, just because you don't know what you're gonna run into, right? Like I had one 2 weeks ago, I think it was, their AR was off and it was like one transaction, right? So it took like 15 minutes to like jump on the phone, find the transaction, fix it, turn direct posting off, we're good to go, right? Some of those other clients, like I mentioned, tens of thousands of dollars if it's a huge mess. But again, even if it's $20,000 today, if you let it go for another 2 years, it's going to be $100,000 in 2 years, because it's just compounding on top of each other, right? And I like compounding when it's investments and interest, but I don't like it when it's problems, right? So you don't want your problems to compound on top of each other and become larger problems that are exponentially growing. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that one is, it depends, on how things are, but there's certain things that are quick fixes, right? Like if your posting setups aren't, that could take 20 minutes. Obviously, we want to have a discussion around what accounts you actually want those posting to. But I would say outside of the subledgers to general ledgers, that's going to be the most time intensive if you're off. Everything else is mostly setup related and can be completed with, a couple clicks of a button or, a discussion or two. So yeah, it's not a huge lift. And the biggest areas of success I see are in three areas. For partners, it's at go live, right? Making sure that what you set up, that you're handing off to your customer or client, is good to go. Then from an end user standpoint, month end close, year end close, right? Definitely want to add it to your month end process. Again, there's no reason you shouldn't. It's a free tool that you have at your disposal.
Exactly.
So I'm biased, but but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't take a look at it. Yeah.
It's great. I mean, the first time I saw this, I was like, "Holy cow, this is amazing!" I think a lot more customers should be using it. It's a free tool, and will bring issues to light quickly, so you can resolve it and not have lingering issues for a very long time. So I guess Ben, let's go ahead and do a demo and show the software here for the folks on our webinar. And by the way, if we're going to be sending this recording on, but if you're listening to this via any of our, podcast type networks, Spotify or anything like that. We are going to go into a demo now. So if you do want to see this piece of it, there's going to be probably 8 or 10 minutes of, on YouTube that you could probably go back and refer to and see this particular demo of Benco's solution on BC Health Check. So with that, Ben, why don't you go and take it away and show us show us your product here live in a BC instance running.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a copy down of another environment that I've got. I downloaded the health check into it this morning, and we're immediately seeing data, right? Just from how easy the setup is, I can even show you that, right? So like I said, it is a matter of turn it on, give us our average paydays DSO indicator, give us a grace period, and give us some date formulas and number series warnings, right? And I'm going to pre-populate all this for you on download, right? So you download it, it's going to show this. If you want to have a further discussion on why these are what they are, we can absolutely chat about that. But that's going to frame us up to be able to actually run this health check. So the first thing that you see here is one of the first important things that I talked about, which is your subledger to general ledger balance checks, right? So I look at my bank accounts here. Do you one better, right? We'll also break down your bank accounts individually. So right now, I see that each bank account is tied to its own general ledger account, which is again something you should be checking for. And in this case, that's perfect, right? Everyone has its own general ledger account. We've got a bank account as well as two credit card accounts, which I'm also running reconciliations on. The first two are good to go. They tie perfectly. However, this Chase credit card, maybe it's a new credit card, right? It's got a low balance tied to account 20510. We're off by about $200 general ledger to subledger, right? Why is that? Well, that's typically because your direct posting is turned on for this GL account, and somebody posted to 20510 without actually posting to the bank account card for the credit card. Down here under direct posting, we can validate that and see that, this is just going to show us any direct posting warnings for GL accounts that are tied to subledger accounts or posting groups. And here I can see that this Chase credit card, yep, it's tied to a bank account posting group, and it has direct posting turned on. We try to make this not only a dashboard, but something you can interact with. So I can click into this GL account and go ahead and turn direct posting off. Of course, I'd want to fix the $200 balance before doing this because now it would be blocked, but fix the balance, right? And then turn direct posting off. And now it'll still show here for a second because I'd have to refresh the data. But now that problem can't get worse, at least it'd still be $200 off. And then when you can go fix it, you can again fix it and then turn direct posting off again. So that's one of the kind of flagship features. And then kind of extrapolating on top of that, we're also going to show you AR, AP, bank accounts in aggregate. Again, we can see we're $200 off. Refer up here, inventory and prepayments. So my AP is all good to go. The AP account has direct posting turned off. We're good to go there. But AR, banks that we saw, and inventory are off, right? So this is something where you'd have to dig a little bit deeper into your AR, find out why it's off, find the individual customers. Again, that's a little bit of a bigger process. We're happy to go through if anybody has those issues because it kind of is a case by case. But you go in and identify those customers, kind of true them up, fix the general ledger balance to tie out to your subledger, and then you should be good to go, right? At go live, all of these should be green and everything should tie out, right? And direct posting should be turned off. So
Yeah.
Without spending too much time, since we only have about 15 minutes left, just kind of going to highlight some of the larger areas that we find to be very popular, with the next one being your customer aging, right? So when I think health check, I want to know who my customers are, what their balances are, how long they're taking to pay, and what their terms are, right? So here I can see that this customer with its largest balance, they're on a 7-day payment term, and on average they're taking 150 days to pay us, right? So this is just another one of those good indicators. It's interactive. You can click into it. It's not just a dashboard. You can actually do stuff with it. And right from here, you're going to open up customer ledger entries, and you can even apply entries. Maybe you've got payments that were unapplied, right? You can do that directly from the dashboard. I we try to make it easy so that you don't have to go out of the health check to do something and then come back into the health check. Because I always, I hate doing that and having like 10 tabs open and flipping back and forth, right? So you're able to do it, resolve it, and then go on to the next one, right? So that's kind of a little nice to have there.
Just a quick thought here, Ben. I really like the way that this is broken out. If at being an end user or even being a partner, being able to quickly see bank accounts, sub ledger GL discrepancies, right? Customer aging, essentially direct post warnings. Like this for me, being an accounting person in a organization is where I would be focusing my attention first thing in the morning, every morning, right? Like is the system healthy? Right, and are we ready to transact today? So this is a phenomenal view for someone that just wants to really quickly check what are these urgent things I need to take care of today. Kind of think of it like your dispatch list, right? Your queues and things, activity that you need to work on right away. So really nicely done over here.
Yeah, and then that's a good segue into this next piece, right? Like we got sales orders, ship not invoiced, purchase orders, receive not invoiced, old sales documents, old purchase documents. We're not saying that there's necessarily a problem with these documents, right? We're just saying that this is something that you should probably look into, especially on the sales side, right? If you ship something, you have full control over if you can invoice that, right? So there should be no reason that we're sending a bunch of stuff and we're not following that up quickly with an invoice. Of course, on the purchase order side, we have less control. So yeah, I can get all these goods in inventory and receive them. But if the vendor hasn't sent us an invoice, a little bit, more difficult. But again, there are measures you can do, follow up with the vendors depending on your vendor relationships. It's in the vendor's best interest to get paid on those invoices, right? So if they haven't sent you an invoice, likely with a follow-up, you can match those up and make sure that the expected cost on the purchase order that you received is the same cost as your inventory. Obviously, the longer that goes, the discrepancies may not cause problems, but could affect your financials and things like that, right? And then old purchase and old sales documents. This is just like, hey guys, we've got quotes out here from 2023. We're probably not going to win those deals, right? Maybe we should clean those up and move on and start chasing some new things, right? So just kind of a cleanup exercise there as well. We'll go through a few more of these things and then kind of jump back and wrap it up. But one of the things that you mentioned as well was proactively, how do we monitor these? So we'll get into what in Business Central they call change logs, and then we'll go one level deeper and also talk about field monitoring. So let's just load real quick. Change logs are simply just going to track changes that happened in the system, whereas field monitoring will actually email you that a change has been made. So if somebody turns direct posting on, right, maybe we want to put a change log to say, send me an email. If somebody changes really anything that would be negatively affecting this, maybe they add a new general business posting group, right? Okay, maybe I want to get an email, right? So we can trigger these email notifications on many different things so that areas of popular maybe confusion or pitfalls, we don't have to worry as much because we can send an email to the administrator or somebody who knows and has the knowledge to be proactive about these things, right? It's probably unrealistic if you have 40 Business Central users in the system for all 40 to be proactive about everything, right? But if you have one or two who can be kind of the managers or the responsible parties for making sure that these things are good to go, that pays dividends into the future. So posting group setup, this is what we talked about before. I'm going to show you two to three different things here, right? I'm going to show you the combinations. I'm going to show you if the combination exists in the setup. So this is saying that a blank business posting group and a product posting group simply doesn't exist. So there's no GL account. So obviously, if somebody tries to post to that combination, you're going to get error messages like we saw in the PowerPoint. Similarly, up here, if somebody posts to licenses or monthly and they're trying to sell something, we don't have any sales accounts set up. So again, that's a red flag right there. And then down here, this would be an example of somebody sets up a new customer or vendor. They create a new business posting group because this is our first international vendor that we're working with, and they didn't set up anything, right? So they went to the vendor card and created the posting group. However, nobody assigned any GL account. So now anytime you post literally any transaction, purchase or sales, you're going to get a ton of error messages, right? So again, kind of just going off of what are the most common things. None of this is rocket science by any means, but they're things that people just don't think about because they think, yeah, of course that's happening behind the scenes when realistically it's actually not. And then posting range setups. So we're pulling in two tables here, which I always found to be kind of a nuisance, right? That it was in the general ledger setup. And then I also had to go to the user setup to see what the overrides were. So again, nothing magical here, just putting two screens that interrelate to each other on the same screen in Business Central, so you can quickly evaluate kind of top level system dates versus individual user dates. If I go to post anything right now, I've done a horrible job at updating my system because I can't post to June, right? We're still last month, and any sales orders, purchase orders trying to go out now are of course going to get those posting date errors that we showed again in the PowerPoint there. And then down here, we just got some accounting period stuff. Are your accounting periods set up? Have you closed the year? We're good for June. Once July comes, I have not set up those posting periods yet or those accounting periods yet. So again, you might not get errors in that case, but as soon as you go try to run an income statement for July, it might pull last July's data depending on how you have the periods set up. Business Central is very nitpicky on those periods when it comes to comparative
Absolutely.
financials, running your financial reports. Again, we'll just run through these real quick just so people can get a visual on them. Inventory, just going to be those negative inventory warnings plus some inventory valuation metrics. Just for the sake of time, we'll jump through this real quick.
Sure.
So again, negative inventory, just kind of showing you what items in Business Central are showing a negative quantity on hand right now. And then over here, we just got some like sales and purchase metrics, on-hand metrics, some ratios, some inventory valuation numbers, primary vendors, and dollar amounts, right? Just kind of a nice to have around your inventory.
Yep.
As well as if there are missing setups, right? Do you have missing item categories? Do you have missing general product posting groups, things like that? So a mix of health check and analytics here.
Mm-hmm.
The system, and again, we'll publish the recording as well as I've got some prepackaged videos on YouTube if anybody's interested in those to fully set this up end to end. System, it's going to show your user tracking, who's logged in, the last time they logged in, what license they have. A lot of times we work with clients, they've got, they've purchased 20 Business Central licenses and they've only got 18 people in the system. Well, there's no point in paying for 2 extra licenses unless, of course, you've paid for the full year in advance, in which case you can't downsize during that year. But again, just a nice to have, see who's in the system, who's doing what. Job queues we talked about before. So job queues are a very deep sea of functionality, right? You can do a lot of different things with job queues, but looking at our currency example, right? If your currency job queue is failing, your currencies are not updating, right? So we have ways to get notifications if those things are happening and monitor the job queues here. Like you said, you can come in every morning, see what's failed, and restart them. Right. This one's as simple as a click of a button, assuming that it says something went wrong. Usually it's a timeout or something.
Right.
So hopefully you can just click it and restart it. If there is something you need to look into, obviously you have to troubleshoot that. And then we've got our currency exchange rates down here, just showing you when the last time they were adjusted, what their current rate is, and then what currencies you're dealing with. Right. If I've got clients in a country that aren't listed here, what's up with that, right? Like where are multi-currencies coming from? Or maybe we're just tracking them in US dollars and we should be having, if you're in Asia, right? The Japanese yen is probably 150 to 1 or something, right? That could be a huge discrepancy coming against the US dollar. And then this final piece is just those change logs, right? So what are you tracking? What's changed? Do we have field monitoring turned on to indicate that certain people are getting emails when things change? And then what are your retention policies? So, I don't want to keep the direct posting flag in my change logs for 5 years, right? I probably want to keep them in for a month or so, and then, proactively update those. So you can see here kind of the different tables, the different retention policies, and from a Business Central database capacity, change logs are one of the number one things that we see that really fill that up, especially if you're tracking all the changes on a table, which I would never recommend. But again, you can start to analyze some of this stuff, clean it up, use the retention policies. So again, very high level on kind of what we're trying to accomplish here, but hopefully that gives everyone a good visual on if you download the health check, what you can expect to see in Business Central. And our kind of motto or MO for everything is that we're going to directly embed it into Business Central. So you never saw me leave, right? I'm still in Business Central. If I get out of the health check, I'm right back in on my Business Central homepage, right? So we're not doing anything fancy outside of the system. We're trying to keep it in that ecosystem, which not only makes it easy for you to kind of jump in and do things, but you don't have to, license a bunch of third-party tools as well to get this information. It's all just going to be, assuming you have a Business Central license, it's going to be at your fingertips.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. You know, doing this, I think this could be a benefit for so many folks out there that are using Business Central, that's post go live, and you know they want to make sure that is their system still running optimally, right? Are there some unknowns there that someone didn't fix, someone should be fixing, someone should be looking at? You know, I really like the retention policy. For those that you don't know what that is the ability to be able to keep data for a certain period of time until you no longer need it again, helping clear memory, helping clear capacity, because you know that Microsoft charges for capacity over I think 80 gigs or 40 gigs or whatever that is, but you're kind of keeping your database clean, running optimally. You know, the posting setup tables are important because I think the first time after we show that, you know, we know no one ever goes back into it. You know, having that in your forefront and looking at is everything posting correctly? Do we have the right posting group codes? I think is an important, really important piece here. So we have about 3 more minutes left here. Ben, before we let you go, I have a question. How would somebody go about doing their own health check inside Business Central? What do you
Yeah,
recommend?
so I just posted a link to our YouTube channel, right? I've spent a lot of hours on creating these little prepackaged videos. If you're interested in downloading the health check, I would highly recommend going to these links because it's going to show you everything start to finish, right? I just pulled up the first video. It's literally going to show you how to download the app from app stores, right? How to add the permissions, how to do the setup, right? Everything that we talked about today, but in depth. And then videos 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to go through each individual subject area. So analyzing accounting health, analyzing inventory, analyzing setups, things like that, right? So if you are interested in taking the next steps, obviously feel free to ask us any questions as well. I'm always happy to help. But if you're looking to self-serve and get this done, you know, in the next 24 hours, these videos are going to give you everything that you need in order to be successful with the application, right? So this will walk you through some of the things that we went through today, you know, and the other videos are more so telling you what the data is showing and how to analyze it. The first video is how to set it up, right? So if you just want to set it up, 5 minutes, you're done. If you want to learn more about in depth what every analytic is showing and what table it's pulling from, check out the videos, right? Like accounting 7 minutes long, right? So it's a pretty easy lift and you can jump around. If you want to go straight to inventory, that's like a 4 minute video, right? You don't have to watch accounting before you watch inventory, right? You can do it in whatever order you'd
Yeah,
like. But super self-serve, download from app stores, watch the
exactly.
videos, and you should be pretty self-sufficient. Feel free to ask us any questions
Yeah.
if anything arises.
Exactly. I'm gonna flip over to my PowerPoint here real quick and just
Yeah, go
and
for
just
it.
end this off here. Give me a quick moment. I think it's here, right? Okay. So where could everybody find us? That kind of concludes our webinar. Just in the interest of time here, I'm just going to our last page on our PowerPoint deck. And there's a lot of apps. Ben has created a lot of apps out there on AppSource that do a lot of different things, filling in gaps with Business Central. So if anyone's interested in any other solution that he has, please feel free to check out his website, ERP Connect Consulting, and also reach out to him directly, or you can reach out to us. We are a reseller of his solutions, and happy to talk through any specific gap that you may have on your Business Central environment where any of Ben's products could help fill for you and help optimize your Business Central instance for your users. So going down here, we have essentially have following us on LinkedIn. So Ben, they could our users, our people that have joined us today could connect with you on LinkedIn. We have some QR codes here. Feel free to scan them and connect with Ben directly, connect with his company directly. Be more than happy to answer questions there. And then for us, you could connect with me on LinkedIn as well, and our business webpage. More than happy to help answer any questions around Business Central to make sure it's running smoothly, because you know oftentimes, you know, after you're live, you know, there comes a point where you kind of just get lost in the day-to-day and not really see, is it really optimized for where you are now after you went go live. So you know, this is, you know, a series that we like to do at AdSeris ERP, and really happy that we're able to have Ben on today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate
All
everybody
right.
tuning in and listening to me talk for half hour. So it's been awesome.
Absolutely. We're gonna post this on our YouTube. We're gonna post this on our website. And like I said, this demo was fantastic. You know, if you want to see the demo, you're gonna want to go jump onto YouTube. But the rest of, kind of what we talked about, you could pretty easily hear it in the background and continue evaluating this solution. So thank you everybody for your time today. Have a great day.